Zapata Mateo,
Here.
Aho, here, Enla,
Here.
Sarah, here, Burnett, here, Drake,
Yeah.
Shriver,
Here.
McCormick,
Here.
Murtha, here, Peterman, here, Pitts,
Here.
Riley, Schaefer, Schrage,
Here.
White,
Here.
Humple,
Here.
Graham, here, Colwell.
Okay. All right, needed approval, or is there any changes that you need to be made to the minutes of the February 9th meeting?
Motion to approve.
All right, do I have a second? Thank you, Bob White.
Second.
Have a second? Jerry, great job. All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Outstanding. Citizens' input on any agenda items. You have 3 minutes.
Dave Kesselring for the record. I'd like to continue to remind you of some of the suggestions already made, which you should have record of. These suggestions include a People's Bill of Rights, term limits for county commission, and in this case 2 terms, not 3, election of the county administrator, election of the county attorney, election of the charter review board, single-member districts in which the voters in each district get to pick their representatives. Contrary to the propaganda being spread by those currently in power in Sarasota County, single-member district voting is not a Democratic Party idea, but an idea supported by almost every party. It's nonpartisan, it's grassroots. Last but not least, the limiting of power of the county administrator and the county attorney. I have a new suggestion for this month. Article 2, Section 2.2G1 currently reads, "The people of Charlotte County shall have the right to initiate county ordinances in order to establish new ordinances and to amend or repeal existing ordinances upon petition by a number of electors equal to 10% of the number of electors qualified to vote in the county as a whole in the last preceding general election." That's over 15,000 signatures for any type of change to our own. That's over 15,000 signatures for any type of change to our own local ordinances. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that ordinances or the repeal thereof are never done by the people because of a ridiculously high number of petitions required by those in power. I've been in Charlotte County for nearly 3 decades and have never seen a citizen-initiated change in ordinances in this county. My suggestion has a slight twist. We have way too many restrictive and repressive ordinances on the books. I would ask that the charter be changed to a much more reasonable 5% for repeal of an ordinance, 7% for an amendment to an ordinance, and 10% for a new ordinance. This would still require 7,500 signatures to repeal ordinances that clearly don't have the consent of the people. If you don't already know, you need to come to an understanding that governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Governed without consent of the people is the very definition of slavery. It's time this county charter changes to a document of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
Yeah, I'd like to address.
Hold on a second. We're under citizens' comments.
Excuse me?
We're under citizens' comments,
I'm a citizen.
but you're also a commission member.
So does that take
No,
my right
if you
away?
want to present
Whatever
something.
way you want to do it, Bill.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Just want to present.
It'll only be 3 minutes.
All right. I never had that before.
I have 2 items I'd like to present. One is some recommendations for the Board of Commissioners and this organization as a whole. And a second one is, and I have copies for everyone that's here. We had some issues earlier this year relating to Babcock Ranch. And there was a little bit of a to-do with the commissioners. I found out that the county of Lee has an ordinance that would have solved that problem. So I brought a copy, and I'm recommending that almost as it's written, that it be placed in our charter. The second item, I'll just read it to you to make it easy for me. Charlotte County is a relatively large county with a small population which is experiencing a large growth spurts throughout the county. Due to the size of this county, residents can live as much as an hour apart and have significantly different opinions as to how their area should look and operate. Charlotte County was created approximately 100 years ago, while it only has one city, Punta Gorda, created 140 years ago. Therefore, does not appear likely that additional cities will be created soon. Furthermore, we should recognize that some simple changes could be made would support the existing 5 districts, and also recognizing the fact that Charlotte County's best interest that it be operated as a united entity. Charlotte County is governed by the Charlotte Board of County Commissioners. Currently, the commissioners run for office based on the commissioner's district of residence, while being elected on a statewide at-large basis. On occasion, a district commissioner may find it difficult to support the issues specific to their home district because the commissioner has been elected countywide at-large basis. Therefore, the residents in each district could easily feel disenfranchised because their district commissioner might have been elected by the combined remaining districts. On the other hand, a countywide...
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, I have these. If anyone who's interested in reading them, I'll set them right here on the counter.
Any other citizen? All right, seeing none. Presentation of the Board of County Commissioners final report. Who's doing that?
Yes.
All right, you are?
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to start off by thanking the other members, Jeff, Dr. Pitts, Donna, for serving on this subcommittee. A lot of research was done on all of the issues, including the input we had heard from the citizens at this meeting and anyone who did come before our subcommittee meeting, as well as testimony or input we received from various county officials and others. I want to thank them for pointed questions. It's a difficult process. You're dealing with people in their capacity, but I applaud the members. They didn't toss any softball questions at them, and they held them to the facts. You know, a lot of people have opinions, but we held them to facts, because in the end, that's what we base our decisions on. Facts, not opinions, and principles, not emotions, personalities, or whatnot. Not going to go into detail into the methodology. It's there. It's the same methodology that you all use probably. We met various times, interviewed various people in different capacities for their input. And second time I've done it, and it's always rewarding and interesting to see what people in the capacity have to say. In our decision, we did our best to keep personalities out of the equation. In fact, the best thing I think I heard from anyone, and probably in a long time, was the advice, act as if you were starting the county off from scratch. How would you construct it? Or think of it like if you were in an organization and creating a set of bylaws. Don't fall into the trap of, well, this one will be best at that, or that should be here, and that's what a lot of organizations do. And so we did our best to take personalities out of the equation. We heard what they had to say, but we realized too, if anyone's ever done analysis of an organization, and I did during my career in law enforcement, over dozens of law enforcement agencies around the country, I was part of an assessment team. And I realized there's threats to, internal threats to validity is what you call it, that people may not have the knowledge that, maybe the requisite knowledge they may need for their decision or their operation. Certainly, a lot of self-serving interest. I'm not saying that was here, but these are things we had to be careful of, especially when you're dealing with subordinates. You know, their job's at stake, maybe, or people don't want to change things. But we acted like adults, asked them tough questions, just like you would with your children. You know, the tail doesn't wag the dog. And hopefully we are the dog, and that's how we try to behave. But a friendly dog, one with the best of intentions. Like I said, we operated on principles, and I'll get into some of those as we go through the issues. Not emotions, and of course on facts, not opinions. I know we had made 3 recommendations. If I have the liberty, we did address 12 or 13 issues. And I'd like to just mention them because you may have questions. Well, how about this? How about that? So if I can address them and say why, you know, that we did address them, but we concluded not to recommend, and for a reason. Would that be helpful?
Well, why don't you go through the report first, and then we can go back to that, and if one of the commission members
Okay.
has something to come up.
All right.
Is that all right?
Because I know the public and some of the other members here have asked about certain things. We'll put those aside. If they come up, then they come up. Obviously, if it's not in the report, we didn't have a majority vote to go forth with it. But we'd be glad to discuss it. Term limits for elected officials. This was probably, out of the 3 we passed, this one we wrestled with. You know, on one side, you know, and myself, I kept getting hung up on the fact that, and I was here the last time when term limits were brought up. And who ended up getting term limits? This body, the body that meets, what, every 5, 6 years, or whatever it is?
6 years.
Every 6 years, who has really minimal impact to the county day-to-day operation. We recommended that term limits be placed on us and nobody else in this county. And of course, the citizens saw term limits, and you know, I think a lot of that is emotional based on what they hear out of Washington. You know, yeah, get rid of those SOBs. So, you know, throughout this process, I said to myself, well, if there was wisdom to give us term limits, why not others? And we wrestled with this. We ended up saying 3. But I got to be honest with you though, and I have thought about this since. There was no wisdom to establish term limits for us. I mean, you got to realize you'd have to be here 18 years to want to do this 3 times, or 6, yeah, 8, right? The 18th year you'd come up again, and we have minimal impact. I mean, yeah, we change a couple of things in the charter. Well, we recommend some changes. Some get passed by the citizens, some don't. So I said, what was the wisdom of that? Was that just an appeasement? I really don't know, and it's unimportant. You know, it's ancient history. You know, and quite frankly, I'm not going to do this a 3rd time, so I'm self-imposing my term. And I thought about this. All right, so we said 3. Just, I'm only speaking for myself. I can't speak for the others. That okay, maybe 3 sounds significant. That's 12 years. But then I thought about it after. This county is still operating as a major city. You know, we have one incorporated jurisdiction, Punta Gorda. The other area, as big as it is geographically, with 100 and, take away, you know, maybe 170, 80,000 people under the auspices of the county. And that's a lot of responsibility. We're not talking a rural area. Maybe someday we'll be that. But when you're operating basically, and Ray Sandrock used to say, yeah, I manage the city of Charlotte County, you know, if you ever heard him speak. And he's so right, that it takes a while to get up to speed. You know, and I know we passed this with, but I have my own reservations, and I do want to put that out there. That, you know, these fellas, to operate this county, they have to have relationships with people out of the county and other governments, people in Tallahassee. You can't come in and expect to learn that in 3 or 4 years, and maybe not even, think of the jobs you've had. We used to say in law enforcement, you're a rookie for the first 5 years. And then when you become sergeant or lieutenant, you would have spent 10 years at that job just to know, you know, this much about the operation, let alone the whole thing. That's why chiefs don't get hired in their second year. Usually it's 20 years or more. So with that kind of thinking, I reflected on it, and I put that out there to you. And on that one, if it's okay to hear what the others have to say, because I don't want you, again, there was no principle at stake here. We hear term limits, but there is no principle. It's just a slogan, it's just a desire, no rhyme or reason other than, well, give the citizens a chance to run for something. Well, you know what, they can. And if somebody's doing that terrible a job, and I've been here since '07, we have defeated an incumbent, if you remember.
Why don't you go through this, right now you're debating,
Yeah.
we're gonna go down these, remember, we're gonna take each one of these issues, like this one, and then we're gonna debate this whole thing, so you're actually debating how.
Well, I just wanted to
go down
give
the
you
issues, yeah.
so just some insight into that, so that maybe, you know, you don't ask 3 or 4 questions, and maybe that helps satisfy you. The second one, the fact was we're the only county, to our knowledge, with a home rule charter that doesn't comply with the separation of powers. And that's a fundamental principle established in the U.S. Constitution, guaranteed by Article 4 to the states, who in turn guarantee that in their state constitutions to local government. When I mean separation of powers is that you have the operations branch, or the executive branch on whatever level, president, governor, county administrator, and you have the legislative. You have Congress, you have the state legislature, and you have the county commissioners. We're recommending that we establish a division of powers, like some other charters have done, like some other counties have done in their charter. Again, for the principle of the separation of powers, and there's a lot of other business principles here, whether it's reporting, directing, unity of command. This came into being because 12 years or so ago, they violated the principle, and they operated on personalities, and they managed by exception. Instead of addressing the issue and maybe firing some people, oh, let's just change our Constitution. Well, I'd hate to have that happen in Congress, where we put the FBI under the jurisdiction of the Speaker of the House. You know, so we're recommending division of powers, like some other counties have, to make it clear, so that no county commission can come in, well, I want the fire chief to be under us. Well, I think budget should be under us. Well, how about this? Maybe that should be under us. Our Constitution guarantees to the people what they call, with a small r, a Republican form of government. Distinct separation of powers. We've merged that when they ignored the basic fundamental of governance. Number 3, casino referendum needed for gambling. We looked at, and part of our research went through all the charters and made some notes. To get ahead of the fact that the legislature may someday allow casino gambling, we wanted to preempt that, like Clay, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties have done, so that if they did pass a law allowing casino gambling, it would have to come before the local people on a referendum to see whether they accept it or not. we can't make this after the fact, because if they pass the law, and then we wait the 6 years to put it in our charter, we've lost. So we want to preempt it. We think it's the smart thing to do. And again, put that governance in the hands of the people should the state decide to change the law on us. Four counties have had the foresight to do it, and we think we should be the fifth. And model it after language in Clay, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties. That's the three that we recommended out of the 12 or 13 that we reviewed.
Okay. I appreciate that, Bill. About the tail.
I can be succinct when you ask me to.
Some recommendations that are not charter related in your report. Can you give an insight of where what the thoughts were behind some of these?
Anyone's, again, I can go through the other 8 or 9, but any in particular?
I think more number 2 is the one that kind of caught my eye.
Which one?
The prohibition on use of county offices
Oh, I'm sorry,
and
that was on the
staff
next page.
for non-county entities, including
Yes.
NGOs, civic groups, 501c3,
Right.
6.
We had discovered, in fact, this had been discovered maybe 2 years before, but we brought it up that and short of a charter proposal, there were some issues that we discussed with some of the managers and other people. Whether that was one of them, another one was audits. And we said, if things can be handled administratively, we don't need to change the law. And this one specifically, we had discovered that the county, there was a county department that was allowing, not a nonprofit, but a political action committee, a 501c6. They were their staff, they were their mailing address, their telephone address, they were holding their IRS accounts. I don't think that's a proper role of government, to use government taxpayer funds and facilities and personnel for non-governmental businesses. So we had, they said, well, we stopped that practice. And I had asked, well, do you have anything in writing prohibiting it? No. I said, well, how are you going to prevent it from happening in the future? We're here as watchdogs. If we don't have the foresight to see some of their blind spots, and you know what I'm talking about, blind spot, they maybe can't see a problem, but others can, then what are we here for? And so we're saying that, they said, well, if you make a recommendation, we'll think about adopting a policy. So we're saying, think about it. I mean, this is an improper use of government. Lucky somebody didn't file a complaint maybe with Tallahassee or the Attorney General. It could have opened up into a possible conflict of interest and ethical charges or more. So what we're saying here, that we make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissions and the administration that they review the procedures for oversight of, this is the county funds. This was the audit. Sorry. I'm talking about 2, and I'm reading 1. Let me continue on 2, because that's the one you did mention, Don.
We have 2 twos. Which one?
Page 6, number 2.
Non-charter, right.
Yeah, the non-charter. Prohibition of county offices and staff for non-county entities. For example, NGOs, civic groups, 501c3s, as well as C6s. I don't think it'd be proper for my wife and I to house our real estate business in the fire department's office and let them handle our phone calls and file our tax returns
These
there.
are businesses that we're talking about. That's a business you're talking about. These are not.
501c6 is a political action committee.
No, they're not.
That's different.
501c6 is a member-based association. Political action committees are 501c4.
Okay.
And in 2013, the laws were changed that they had to be separated out of it. 501c3s have no political, they cannot have any religious
They're
or
nonprofits.
political.
Totally nonprofit.
Yeah, that's a nonprofit.
Right. Well, regardless, we think that no other, that county resources.
Why? They're serving a legitimate county-based service that the county would have to provide. If they didn't, why wouldn't you have them? Why wouldn't you give them some help with that? My history center is in a county building. We have an agreement with the county on that. We've had it for years. We service people in the county. There's other organizations that have.
Family Service Center, we'd have to close it down
We have
according
to
to
close
this.
us down.
Do you have your tax returns stored in county offices?
It would be, because that's where they rent it from.
Maybe we could just get to the point, put the EDP in there, because that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it wasn't the EDP regular, is when they did their political action committee, when they gave funds to defeat the sales tax, they were housed in the county office.
But that's a specific
Yeah,
thing.
I'm saying, I'm pretty sure we supported that.
Yeah, because I,
We supported the sales tax, so I'm not sure what you're.
Oh, then maybe in support of the sale, I'm sorry. But the fact that they stopped the practice, they saw something was wrong with it.
Yeah, you-
And they had agreed it
Somebody
was
filed a
improper when we
complaint with
interviewed people.
with the state. I believe the curmudgeons filed a complaint with the state, or threatened to. So yes, the practice was stopped,
Yeah,
because we don't have, as a 501c6, we didn't feel that we needed to spend our members' money defending what we thought was a frivolous charge of, misappropriation of county funds. So yes, we ended the practice.
yeah.
So let's just put that in there, it's the EDP. That way we can
Well,
talk
it's
about
the
what you're
EDP,
talking about.
the political action end of it.
But you're incorporating a nonprofit, you're a nonprofit.
Well, you
Well,
can change
I
that.
can name a whole list. of
Well, you're
what
right,
they're
Teresa.
servicing.
Again, it's our recommendation, you're free to modify it. Our thing was though that, and they have stopped it, but nothing prevents it.
Right.
An organization,
I think the county has handled, at least in our situation, this very responsibly. We have an agreement with the county, we have to give reports to the county, we have to show them that we are doing community service. There are all kinds of provisions that we have to county.
I remind you, we're debating.
I understand, you're right, you're right. You're
So we're actually
correct.
gonna have to do this twice.
You're correct.
Yeah, but
But
this is
I like to
just
get
that committee saying some things to us, and we're gonna obviously
I
go
just
from
don't
there.
like something.
Yeah, Bill?
I just want to make a comment. What we need to understand is a low-level county employee was storing the records, signed the income tax returns. And on that, it stated a C3 and a C6.
Laws have changed since 2013.
And, no, I'm
That's what it
I'm
was.
talking about laws, I'm talking about federal income tax.
The EDP has had two organizations. They had a legacy, from when it came out of the chamber, it was a C3, which we maintained to be able to fund educational programs
I have no
perfectly within the
objections to
laws. And we had a C6.
The income tax returns were stored, they were of record, the individual employee was of record as the responsible for those documents, and actually signed them.
They were prepared by a CPA in accordance
I
with
don't
the
care what
law
they were
tax
prepared
law.
by, the
Where they
county
were stored,
employee
is
doesn't.
that
Okay,
true?
Bill, I think they're going,
Yeah, I know, but let's not.
I'm sorry.
well, the fact
We
is
got
the
a whole
county,
lot-
the county worker was on the tax return as the keeper of the records. I think that's what Bill's pointing to.
That was
No, the
probably
question is, do
an
we think that's
administrative
proper?
oversight, because they didn't control funds. They didn't, there was a checkbook at a bank, issued by a bank that, they may have maintained records, but they didn't control the funds. They weren't signatories on the account. It may have been an administrative oversight. So we're going to reinvent the whole wheel because somebody signed a document that maybe they weren't the person that should have signed it? I mean, let's just be upfront, because we're
No, we don't have a
group
wheel.
here.
That's the whole
that
point. We
We're
don't
gonna
have a
debate
wheel
these as
preventing
Bill
that.
is
Yeah,
Bill is
Rob,
pointing to. So
generations.
let's say what we're talking about, not skirt it in a bunch of C6s and
There were
C3s
two-
and other things.
Directors that were directly involved. They knew it, they participated in it,
In
and
what?
on
Folks,
permitting
folks,
the
let-
employee to
Bill,
do
Bill.
that and answer the phones.
Stop.
I don't think you
And
know
we're
where it
going
is.
down the wrong path.
I was the
here, folks.
president during this, so I think I do know
Rob,
exactly.
You were
Rob,
president
Rob.
in 2008?
No, that's when it started. The way you're talking about.
That's where it started.
That's,
you need to get out.
I'm, Bill,
Come on, guys,
I'll wait till later.
We're way out of here. Do you have anything else to cover, Bill?
Yeah, and again, we're open to that, it was just our recommendation, but we think it should be addressed, because there's no guarantee it won't happen in
No,
the
we
future.
will address this, trust me, as when we get back to this.
Right, and the other one was, and talking with, and Dr. Pitts, he could add to this, discovered that in some cases, the county wasn't sure if certain funds were being audited. and what was it, sales tax revenues that were going to other governmental agencies, such as the school department, and maybe some nonprofits. We asked a number of people, are they audited by the county to make sure that they're being used in the manner that they're supposed to be used? And we thought, and it came as a surprise to some of the people, and one of them was Roger Eaton, the comptroller, who wasn't sure. So that was a little troubling to us. And we're just making a recommendation that they review procedures for the oversight of county funds given to other government. We don't think that needs to be a charter review. You know, we don't need to make that legislative.
Okay. Betsy, we're gonna get down this list as well.
Yeah.
Other boards and subcommittees, who's making that report?
Chair.
Teresa?
Yeah, Chair. Let me get my report and the stuff in. I think only one other member of our committee is here. We had Stephen Drake, James Colwell, James Riley, who's not here as well, and myself on this committee. We had other people as we went, but unfortunately they had to drop out, Joyce Cream and Colleen Ferrero. We met 12 times from June and developed a list of questions as everyone else did. The other boards, to explain to those who don't know, is designed to interview other agencies who are not necessarily government agencies, some of them are, but who are not connected specifically with the county itself. They're not a formal county, although some of them were, they just were not covered. It's like, I think it's like all the boards that were covered by the other committees. And just to list who we did end up deciding to interview, Punta Gorda Chamber of Commerce, the Annual Chamber of Commerce, the City of Punta Gorda, the School Board, the Economic Development Partnership, the Airport Authority, a Veterans Organization, the Board of Realtors, Beaches and Shores Advisory Bureau, the Tourism Bureau, the Building Industry Association, the Zoning Advisory Board, Rotunda West Civic Association, and the Punta Gorda Island Civic Association, which are major civic associations within the county. Representatives from most of these organizations came. We met with them for 30 to 90 minutes. The issues that were focused on were the initial issues that were brought up by a thorough review of other charters compared to our own, and other issues that had come up in public discussion. Some of them had been added on later. And in fact, we maybe went back and set questionnaires on some issues that might not be listed here. Term limits, number of commissioners, single district voting, county administrator appointments, single percentage required for ordinance change, the casino gambling provision, 1% sales tax, business climate in county, county leadership forums, and campaign financing were among the major things that we addressed. When it came down to it, the things that stuck in terms of our recommendations were those things that came up strongly from the individuals that we interviewed from these entities. And they were term limits for sure, came up, resonated with most people. Term limits, either positively or negative, and kind of broke in half. And after consideration, we are recommending term limits for county commissioners. And we said two of them. Although, obviously, that's up for discussion. The other thing that, as Bill recommended his committee, we also came up with the referendum on casino gambling, which was another thing that resonated with most of the people that we interviewed. At least 12 out of the 18 people that we interviewed, 19 people that we interviewed, were strong about wanting to seeing a provision of this nature in our charter. Okay. As far as other findings that came up, wait a minute, there's something I missed here. Okay, no. Other findings that came up, there was a general consensus among the people that we interviewed that no changes were needed with respect to the number of commissioners, the way they were elected, the election of constitutional officers or appointment of county administrator. We didn't get much resonance with that. There is concern, but we did get a number of concerns about the 1% sales tax allocation and how it was being administered. So I'll get to that in a minute. There was interest in a forum for Charlotte County leadership. That, again, I'll get to. There was concern that the citizens of Charlotte County be given an opportunity to input in casino gambling, which we addressed in our recommendation for the charter. There were mixed opinions on term limits, but as I said, some thought should have them, others believe that elections should take care of them. Some interviews thought age restrictions should be introduced for elected office. Some interviews thought the county department head should be county residents. Others strongly agreed. Some interviews thought the county should play a role in the composition of the airport authority. Some interviews thought that the required percentage of signatures to propose change or new ordinance should be reduced. But most felt that the 10% was about right. And I'm reporting on what the individuals we interviewed thought, not the view of the committee. There's a couple other recommendations that we're making. One set of recommendations we're making are for the future charter review commissions. We thought, and this is probably coming from me largely, I think Steve agreed with what I'm saying here, that to make more efficient use of time, encourage participation, especially for this committee that we were on, it was extremely difficult to get the interviews we needed to get with such a wide variety of people without having some other mechanism for doing so, like Zoom or FaceTime or something that where we could interview people remotely. These people, most of these people are heavily involved in other jobs, and coming here was difficult. Although I commend all of them that may not be here for doing so. Improvement needed in public awareness of the charter. We've already kind of discussed that in other sessions here. And consider making a commission a standing commission requiring time. And I agree on, I didn't put this in here, but I would add that possibly considering them being elected. I don't disagree with that recommendation from the public. Other recommendations to the commission. I would recommend this forum, conference for interaction and planning with the leadership that we can deal with somehow getting around some of these sunshine provisions, which are hampering the discussion between leadership in this county.
Spoken like a true elected official.
Given concerns regarding the 1% sales tax administration, it is recommended that procedures be reviewed by Citizens Committee prior to the next round of this. Startup and recommendations for changes be evaluated and voted on. The charter is silent on balancing of memberships on the various advisory committees and boards to be reflective of the county as a whole. This was brought up in some of our meetings, and I thought this was a good recommendation. It's recommended that the selection process for committees and boards consider balancing with members from different areas of the county. I just want to say in closing, I want to recognize Andrea Yeager, who is invaluable. We could have not done this without her. She did an outstanding job of recording and guiding us through this process. Thank you, Andrea. That's it.
I don't think we have any old business, do we? We talk about that. I don't think we have any. New business, you see, that set times of the public hearing meetings. The public hearing meetings are April the 27th, and that's in Punta Gorda. May 11th, Ann and Chuck D were in Inglewood. I hope you guys remember where that is this time. May the 25th, we're back here in the Administrative Center in Murdoch. I was talking with our attorney to see if we could change the time, and given what already had discussed here today, if we wanted to move the time back. He has a meeting just before. I've asked us to change it to 2, but if we moved the meeting back to say 2:30 at our next meeting, which would give us a little bit more time, because we're going to. I was hoping, with y'all's approval, that we're actually going to start going through these different items. We're going to have Andrea pass something out here shortly, and we can actually get through some of these items very quickly, and then other ones are gonna take some time to vote on, and they just are.
I think first we need to decide what time we're going to have the hearings on.
Oh, I'm
April
sorry.
27th, May 11th, and May 25th. So the issue, I think, basically comes down to, do we want to have them at our regular 3 o'clock meeting, or do you want to move it to a later time? We can debate this for a long time. Some feel that if you have it during working hours, you get less participation. Others feel they've moved things to 5 o'clock and not gotten any difference in the participation. So I think we just need a consensus from this group, whether you want to do them at our normal 3 o'clock time or some other time.
You could set there's 3 dates, set each one differently, and people that are available for one would come to the others. That's,
It's up to the
and
committee.
whatever you guys think, just
What do you think? 3, 4, and 5? Something like that? I don't know, what's your pleasure?
Good at 3.
You good at 3?
3.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of just keeping it at 3.
Yeah.
I'll go with that?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, and it's 3 o'clock, it is.
See letters to the editors, I mean.
Okay.
So we need to approve my bill.
Yeah, but let's, that Rob reminded me, we want to approve his bill for the Big W firm. Y'all should have a copy of that there. We're only talking about that $956.25.
Motion to approve.
We're good, have a second?
Second.
Second? Any discussion?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's out of it. Are you happy now?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I'll come back next time.
All right, we have a lot of time here. Yes?
Before we go into a vote, and I apologize, I didn't look, I just noticed looking around the room. I was not here last time, but I think we voted in our first meeting that if you miss 2 meetings back to back, you're no longer part of the commission.
We had an opinion from the county attorney that the committee cannot make its own rules, only the county commissioners can remove a member.
Okay, that's great to know. Just wanted to, I wanted to make sure that we had all the right voting people
Sure.
in case it came up.
So there was no rule at all regarding attendance then?
We made our own, and the county attorney said, nah, that's the county commission
Okay,
is the ones that do. Now, we did take to the county commission and say that we had people miss 3 or 4 meetings,
Yeah.
and we have one now in that particular capacity, but
Theoretically, somebody could just step in and not have attended anything, or listen to any discussions. I think that's problematic.
yeah, I do too.
How do we bring that to attention and get that changed? Because it's not for us, not for us, for the future.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
that's
what,
crazy.
unless you guys tell me not to, I probably need to go before the county commission and just advise them that that's not a good practice. We need to bring that down to like 3 meetings. You missed 3 meetings in a row, you've missed a lot.
Correct.
And then we need to take action at that point.
We can also amend the charter to
Yeah.
include that. I mean, that's something we can discuss as we move forward. We don't
Well, that
have
was
to,
pretty
I'm just saying you
simple.
can discuss it.
We can put that in there, pretty simple. Yeah.
Bill, I was remiss, we had a 3rd recommendation. It was on page 7, I apologize for that. We did discuss, and that's why I had mentioned the 1-cent sales tax. And that was just a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners and the administration to review the process by which they make decisions to select projects and the allocation of this money. And, in talking to the people, I guess there was concern that it comes out of the sales tax citizens, but sometimes it gets changed. So just want to have discussions about that. That was our recommendation.
Yeah, I can get with the commission on that and we'll, and like Rob said, the other thing too is we obviously can make the change to the charter. So now that it's in there, then for next charter 6 years from now, then that would already be in there and give us some teeth. Yeah.
So do we have, what's our quorum for this? Does everybody have to be in their seat, or is there a quorum, like other meetings?
Well, obviously, yeah, is there a quorum?
The quorum is the majority of the 15.
Right.
Well, okay, so I'm just saying, this feels, obviously, if you want, we're appointed to this, you want to show up, but it feels like a nit to put that in a charter review and ask somebody to vote on it. as long as we meet our
Sure, but
quorum.
what's-
No, but I think it's beyond the quorum, John. I think it's a problem if somebody just attends one or two meetings, I'm just as an example, and then they get to vote the same as everybody else. It doesn't seem reasonable to me. If they
That's
haven't
a point.
participated anywhere, whether it be in the charter or not,
Yeah, it's
administrative,
let me just see what they say.
yeah.
We'll go from there. It's pretty simple. Well, you guys gave a applause a while ago. Andrea's been keeping track of everything that's been said by the citizens and everybody else, and she has a form that she's gonna pass out to everybody.
No, this is going to be your voting. Right?
Not including what was, not including the citizen input we received today.
No, we'll have to add that.
Okay, thank you.
More than that.
Thank you.
And legally presenting a document with an employee's name.
And as you look at that, the first page pretty much deals with recommendations. And it's in the inside of that first page that we come up with the first item, which is 3 consecutive terms. And we know from what was presented today that they're talking about 2 consecutive terms. In both, right.
So what is this form for?
I don't understand that.
These
This
are all
is
the
a-
issues
These
that have
are all
been
the issues.
raised so far. So theoretically, we would start at the top and say there were 7 times that the single-member district voting for BCC was brought up. Is that something that we want to put on a ballot question?
Right.
So this like approved, yes or no is
Yeah, and
our action?
this is
after
going
we
to
say-
start the process. We
Okay.
have a lot of time here today. And you can see, these are things both from the citizens and from y'all that brought up, and Andrew's been keeping track of them all the way down the line. Yeah, Bill?
I think that very first one, the single-member districts, if you read that single page, two-sided, that I presented there, you'll find out that there is an alternative to, quote, single-member districts as a standalone. And there's also logic on that as to why single-member districts just wouldn't work out. If you go to some of the counties that have single-member only, it's chaos. It also makes it easier for new people to get elected, which is a positive. Too much change too fast is not healthy for the county as a whole, no matter how much people want single-member districts. So I just would recommend. read
I don't
this.
have that on my first one, do you?
Oh, that's what I
Yeah,
saw.
single-member district
Yeah,
voting types
single-member
for
district.
BCC is the first.
Really? I'm going to say, my page is different. Andrew, I have a different one that you gave us. So you have another one for me here? Okay, and I was going by page 1. Okay, I got it, all right. All right, there we go.
That's just a comment, and that's one of the reasons that, look, I saw what was going to be presented today, and there's a lot of justification for a single-member district. But there's also new problems that we've never experienced before. One of the things that I didn't hear in favor of single-member districts is technically, if you have 5 equal counties, a reasonable argument can be made that 4 control 1. Any 4 control 1.
Are we discussing this
Therefore,
now?
what's brought up.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, he
I'm
raised his hand when
only
he said he
asking,
came here, but
just
yeah,
read it.
we're talking about the first one.
We all have things to say about it.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
So I think we might need to maybe set some ground rules. Maybe
Yeah.
the appropriate way is to take each item on the list. If somebody wants to make a motion one way or the other with it, if there's a second, then we can discuss that motion. As opposed to just discussing it for a long time, but nobody really having an interest in putting it on a ballot one way or the other.
So I'll make a motion not to include single-member district voting in the charter review recommendations.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, now you can
Now we can
discuss.
discuss.
I think one of the other arguments that you have, I mean, Sarasota specifically, one of the blessings that they have is they have city councils. We do not have city councils. So if you go to the single-membered voting district, when 80% of our area is incorporated, that now leaves one commissioner, so to speak, over one particular area. When you're looking at transportation or you're looking at all the growth that we have coming in, if there are issues, you could talk to each of the commissioners where they're still invested in that, so.
Other comments?
I'll just throw out the other side of that argument, and that is, I don't vote for every single representative who goes up to Tallahassee. I vote only for the one that represents the district in which I live. I don't vote for every congressperson who is running from Florida. I only vote for the person in which the district that I live. And I expect them to go up there and fight for my interests, but I also expect them from time to time to fight for either Florida's interests as a whole, either Tallahassee or nationwide. And I think that's the same with the county commissioners. I think that single-member districts allows you to know who exactly is fighting for your interests at the county level, but yet they are going to have to work together to promote the county as a whole. But there are going to be interests and issues that are very specific to West County that are not shared by South County or East County. So I would just say the contrary to this, I think, is the fact that I don't vote for, all of the others. I just vote for the one that is representing the district in which I live. So that's why I think this should be on the ballot. And I think that this is a issue that putting it on the ballot allows Charlotte County to have that debate and that discussion. But if we say, no, we're not even going to put it on the ballot for that debate and discussion, it's very, very difficult for any citizen to collect the signatures in order to get that on to the ballot for those charter reviews. So I think it should be on the ballot so we can have that debate.
I agree.
Anyone else? I see Don.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak against the single-member district voting. I find that when I'm talking to a county commissioner, I like the fact that he knows I can vote yes or no for him. I think it's very important that when I'm talking to all 5 commissioners, they know I have skin in the game and they have skin in the game. The analogy to the federal approach or the representative approach for the Tallahassee, I think Charlotte County is a small enough entity that it is a unified community, and I think that we should approach it from the point of view that every citizen of the county can vote on every issue of importance to the county.
Other comment? Yes, Bill?
Yeah, I'll just speak on it because our subcommittee wrestled with this, being that it's in that section, Board of County Commissioners. We heard the pros and cons, it's like Don said, and then what Patty said. And there's no governing principle here. There's just, concern. And we decided not to recommend this. That's why you don't see it. Because the overall riding theme is that we thought for the best representation, if you have one person in one district, they have to be the jack of all trades and the master of all. And that may not happen. So at least this way, you have more people that may be knowledgeable on a number of issues. And not based on just geography, but just, they may be familiar with water quality. more than that person that represents that single district might be. And then, of course, there is the tendency that can happen, maybe down the road where you form some sort of geographical tribalism. Now it's us versus them, Deep Creek versus Englewood. We don't have that, which is good. I mean, we may have some, not even that much cultural differences between the various communities. So we are Charlotte County, and we thought for that reason that there's more positives to remaining the way it is than there were negatives. That's why we addressed it, and we talked at it at length. And that's why we decided not to recommend that.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I would be in favor of leaving it the way it is. I know who represents my district. I called him first. I'm free to talk to the other commissioners. It's worked for 35 years or so. I don't want the horse trading that goes on, and that's the problem that we have right now in our state and federal governments. They're not really caring about us. They only care about getting reelected. Here, I think the county commissioners actually, in every vote that I have seen, and I've said before how proud I am to be a part of this county, because I've really never seen them do something that wasn't the best for Charlotte County, irregardless of what was going on for their particular district. But if you have single districts, you're going to have horse trading. Well, I'll get the roads paved in your district if you'll approve of the swimming pool in my district. That kind of crap. In which case, maybe both or neither are good for the county. But what we have works because we are a small enough county. We can pick up the phone. You can call your county commissioner. I've done it. You can appear before the county commission. They will all listen to you, even though this is the guy that I called first. He's the guy that represents me, and he knows that he's representing my district, and that's why I'm in favor of leaving it the way it is.
If I could just bring back the argument on that, we actually, and I'm very involved with my association, we'll go up to Tallahassee and we work with legislators. We meet with other ones. I know our voice is stronger with the one, but we still try to meet with them, and it's kind of okay because we do have that relationship. I'm concerned because we are a smaller county that it will create a lot of infighting between the Battle of the Bridges and Mid-County, and it may actually end up separating where there's even more of an issue with elections because there are money pots in certain areas within our county. We were very hot and cold on some of those spots, and I'm unbelievably scared that it will divide our county even more.
I agree.
Teresa?
Yeah, we discussed this issue with the people that we interviewed who represented a lot of different agencies within the county, and overall, most of them were not recommending this, so I wanted to point that out. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the reason this came up in at least our discussions had to do with campaign financing, and that's probably the most difficult one because there are people that find it difficult to run countywide. So it doesn't give some newcomers or new people who don't have the name recognition countywide to enter the field and possibly attain a seat as a commissioner. And we lose something because of that. So that would be the side I would take for this. But the other thing is I looked at the other counties that have charters, and most of them that have this single district voting also have, in addition to that, at-large members in their commission. So that's a complex structure that I don't think our county could support.
Anyone else?
One more point to add on to that. I think it was just 4 years ago, there was somebody who actually ran, brand new to town, who lost by less than 200, maybe 250 votes, if I'm not mistaken, and they did not spend a penny on their campaign, not purchase of one sign. So yes, it can happen.
And an Irish name. I'm kidding.
216 votes.
216.
The only concern I have is if I read that as a question, I say to myself, I have to say no. I have no choice.
although I can see a tremendous benefit, all of the benefits that I just heard. I agree with every one of them. But I believe that would create chaos. And you'll lose your most experienced people, good or bad. You'll have zoning going through. It's not in my neighborhood, so I'll vote for it. You got 4 people changing a zone, let's say out in Babcock Ranch. And don't kid yourself, there are going to be 30,000 people there by the time we have the next commission. They are going to be a player in this county. And that's going to be a sucking sound coming from the 4 districts to the 1 district. Because they're not a city. And they don't want to be a city. So we should think about it. I really would like to dedicate some time just talking about what I had presented. Just read it and say why that's not good. Because it does both things, it feeds both issues. You have 5 separate districts, just little changes. But you would have, for me, if you said, did I want a county executive? I don't know how loud I could say no. That is nonsense. Look at what happens with dictators. And that's what happens when you have a county executive. So at least we can get through to these people. If you add the 2 people that I suggest in the way that I suggested, they could run the meetings, you'd have 5 districts, you'd have 2 at large. So the problems that you see now, and they're there. I mean, if we just read the newspaper, and I can name them one right after the other, especially zones. So there's issues there. So I really, if there's any way we can just talk about this.
I think we need to vote on this issue.
Right.
Okay.
We're going to vote on this.
So call the question.
Well, you got my answer.
What point of order, I'm an alternate, do I vote? No,
The
okay,
alternates do not vote,
just making sure.
just the regular members. All right, we're done with discussion. We have a motion on the floor and a second.
And that's to exclude
That
this
to
issue
not-
from the ballot.
Correct. Need a show of hands, all in favor of the motion?
That's 8.
8.
Those who are opposed to the motion. 3. 4. So
Motion passed.
based on the decision, this will be excluded from ballot.
Okay. Next item there is term limits.
What I would suggest for this, since we have 2 different suggestions, that we decide, do you want term limits? And then if so, then decide what term limit you want.
This is 3 and the other one's 2.
So the question would be, would someone want to make a motion for or against term limits for commissioners?
I will make a motion against term limits.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second against term limits for commissioners. Discussion.
Maybe I'll go ahead and start. I want to say this just to give you a little bio of who, my background. I moved down here in 1993. I was 18 years old. My husband has been down here even longer. He was 10 years old in 1978 when they moved down here. My children have been raised here. So when I'm making decisions, I'm not making decisions because I chose to retire here. I'm making decisions because I have about 30 family members that live here and are being raised here and will continue to call this home. Charlotte County is still designated as a rural community. There's less than 200,000 people in Charlotte County. So on a federal level, we're still considered rural. And if we're having such issues right now, trying to find people to fill the vacancies that we have for volunteers, that we think we're going to have the right people that are going to run for office, we are kidding ourselves that we are going to be taking out some of the most effective people for any reason other than the fact that they shouldn't be in office more than 8 years or 12 years, whatever it may be. So I did a little bit of research. And I actually went back and I looked because, again, I've been here, so I've looked at the way that people voted. And one of the biggest arguments I hear is that new people don't have a chance to run and that they won't have the money or they don't have the backing. Well, I look back, charlottevotes.com, you can go or to their website, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2018, 2020, or 2020, sorry. There were incumbents that lost on that ballot. So it happens all the time. When somebody is not effective and doesn't do well in our community, they lose. Everybody remembers Murdoch Village if you were here, what happened with that. You may remember other commissioners or other elected officials who thought, this is my golden chair, I'm going to be here for a really long time. They lost their seat. There are many big surprises over that. Being elected is more than a title. And I see it all the time. I have people that will actually say to me, I want to be an elected official. I want to run for this position. First thing I do is I ask them, what background do you have? There's plenty that they can do. Like I said, I get an email every week from the county of all these openings. I got the email today. I think it was 19 or 20 different openings for vacancies. So if people really care about our community and not just trying to have a title and be self-glorious, let them volunteer and get involved. I am never going to run for office. That's the last thing that I want. You put term limits on here, you are stopping some of the most effective people, because when I read, or actually in our committee, the administrative and staff, they said this is the best council or best commission that we've had. Many of you said stuff similar in your reports here as well. On top of that, the most important thing, it takes at least 2 to 4 years to learn your job. I think, Bill, you brought that up earlier. So when you're looking at a commissioner coming in, that's one full term for them really to get to know it. It's the relationships that they have to meet. We were very lucky, we heard this many times, that our state representative, he came in as a freshman because it was a different term, but he had those relationships. We're also very lucky that our commissioners right now serve on the Florida Association of Counties. I think it's Bill Truex who's first vice president. So in 2 years from now, he'll be president. Do you know how much strength that gives to our community, that we have our local people at our state's associations wanting to be president? I just like to bring that up. Let me just see, I actually wrote out all my points here too. And again, it comes down to the effectiveness of somebody versus just somebody would like to have a title. You want a title? Go volunteer somewhere else.
Does somebody else want to speak
I think I hit that. Everything.
against the motion?
Well, I just want to speak because we did initially recommend this. And like I said before, without being redundant, I thought about this. And one of the reasons, we did it, all right, we settled for the 3 versus the 2. And then maybe there could be some grandfathering. And also looking at the other 20 charter counties, half of them have term limits. Most of them have 2, one has 3. But I think, again, going back to principles, the principle of effectiveness and efficiency, I remember what Plato said it, if you're not careful, you're going to be governed by your inferiors. And this is an example. We are a rural county, and I think that's even more so that it's important for these folks to have that expertise and maybe can start having some clout up in Tallahassee. Because, we're not a million people. We have to make a lot of noise to get things for our county at a higher level. And a lot of networking between the businesses and the community and our government. And gosh, to force some, and again, I was one of the people initially voted for it, but I said, I gave this thought over the last month or so. And I said, the danger too is they voted term limits for us. Because maybe what was going on in Washington, no doubt this would probably pass. But is that wise? That they're doing it based on emotion and not based on some other underlying principle of governance, of good governance. And we wrestled with this one, and until maybe such time the county grows and becomes maybe expanding it to 5 or 6 or 7 more or additional commissioners, or there's more cities, we can revisit this. But I think right now, we'd be biting our nose to spite our face. And for that reason, even though I chaired the subcommittee that made this recommendation, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I'm gonna vote against it.
I think Cy was
Oh,
next.
sorry, sorry.
Well, is anybody here lacking for information about what's happening in the county? I mean, I think we have an excellent newspaper, I think we have an excellent radio and so forth, and if you don't know what's going on, you're free to attend the county commission meeting. And I can't think of a single instance that would encourage me to replace any of our county commissioners, actually, but maybe by the time election comes up, then maybe. The other thing is, I've had a small business, a number of small businesses and corporations where I employ people. Sometimes I would have to interview 15 to 20 people to find one person that I thought could really do the job. And when I hired that person, I had to go through 3 or 4 people hiring him to end up with one really one person. And when I got them, I wanted them for life, not for 2 terms. And I feel that's a similar situation here. We are small enough. We're not the big city. And like I said, you can go to county commission meeting. I think they have them live on TV now, if I'm not mistaken. We have an excellent newspaper and local news, and I don't see a problem with that. But I would certainly rather, when you've got a good guy as a county commissioner, a good employee, you know, you don't want to make it too easy for somebody else to steal them or flim-flam their way into that position to replace them. I would vote against term limits because I don't think it's been abused here. I've been in this county since 1977. We've had some old fogies on this commission, and now I'm an old fogey. But I remember one who would sleep through half the county commission meetings, and in the end, with one sentence, would end the whole discussion with the most logical solution. And so it's not a matter of age, it's whether you're doing the job. And I think it's easy for the people here to find out who's doing the job and who's not doing the job. You know, there's no shortage of people who want to try to run things. You know, the government class that I had in college was, at the end of the course, decided that the best government was a benevolent dictatorship. The key word there is benevolent. Because you can get things done, you know, and I think there is one example maybe in the world. Singapore, I think, has had a dictator for 50 years or something. I'm not sure who that is, but bottom line is I would be against term limits. I think we limit the terms in the voting booth.
Anyone else?
That's all.
Yes, sir?
I would just make the observation that in the 30 years that I've been here and kind of involved in this stuff, that I think this may be a solution looking for a problem that doesn't exist. I can only think of 2 commissioners in those 30 years that have gotten to 3 terms. So do we really have a problem that we need to fix? I mean, the election, as Cy pointed out, I mean, an election, every election is the check and balance on it. I don't know that arbitrarily limiting commissioners to 2 or 3 terms solves a problem, because obviously that problem hasn't presented itself very often. So.
Anybody else want to be heard? I'm going to call the vote. The motion is that we do not want to go forward with term limits to the voters. And we have a second, Dr. Pitts.
I need a second.
I'm sorry?
I'll second.
We have no Dr. Pitts on the second. Yeah.
We don't need you.
All right. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
The motion is not to have term limits.
Not to have term limits.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10.
And those who want to have term limits?
Limits? 1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
So it will not be a ballot question.
All right, then we talked about water quality, and that came up 9 times.
Same people.
Same people.
Does anyone want to make a motion to put it on the agenda, on the ballot?
I just have a simple question. What's the language?
But that's up to our illustrious.
Do we take the water and pour it through a sieve? I mean, is that what they're saying? We're on the bottom end of that river. It all comes down here.
Is there a motion
Is there a
to
motion?
include a water quality amendment to the charter?
Hearing none, we will move on.
Bill for lack of a move.
Yep, that's good. Municipal ordinances, add language regarding sustainability. Is there a motion for this one?
Let's see. I forgot what that was about.
Which one is that? Sorry, Bill.
It's a section 1.3 municipal ordinances, add language regarding sustainability.
There's language in the charter now that says municipal ordinances shall prevail over county ordinances to the extent of any conflict. I don't know what they were trying to get us to.
I've watched Punta Gorda, I live there. There are ordinances they pass, and they don't supersede, they shouldn't supersede the county.
Is there a
The
motion
county has
to?
a-
Is there a
Amend.
motion?
Let's be specific here, gentlemen.
Yeah.
The question is sustainability, putting it in the charter, yes or no? My view is, I'm not going to make a motion.
Is anyone making a
No
motion
motion.
to add this language to a ballot question?
Hearing none, the motion is not accepted. Elected charter review members. Does anyone want to make a motion to elect charter review members? Put it on the ballot. Does anyone want to make a motion to elect charter review members to put on the ballot? All right, move on to the next one. Change wording from shall be appointed by the BCC to shall be elected district-wide by electors in each district.
Let's see, I think this might be the same thing.
It's the same.
It's the same
It's
thing,
the same
isn't it?
question.
Is this the county administrator?
No, this
Who are they referencing?
is a reference to charter review commission.
Is that charter review?
It's 4C1,
It says
it's not.
CC.
4C.
There is no 4C, there's 4.1 is the home rule charter.
Well, clearly us. We're appointed by the BCC, and it says we shall be elected.
Right, it's the same question
It's
as.
the same question.
It may have just been another, because this is still, I think, part of the conversations that have come
Oh,
up.
if we look at this is the explanation of the title above it.
Well, I want to
It's
know,
a recommendation.
how much would it pay? How much would it pay?
Depends on how much it rains.
Have you learned nothing in all your years?
So the next one is lower percentage required for citizens initiative.
Initiative. Does anyone want to put that forward on the ballot? Does anyone want to make a motion to put forward that to the ballot?
That dies.
All right. Separation of powers, limit power and authority of county attorney and county administrator. Does anyone want to make that motion to put on the ballot? Does anyone want to make the motion to put that on the ballot?
Is that the one out of our subcommittee?
No, this
No.
is from the
No, it's
citizens.
From the
citizens.
citizens.
I think it mirrors some of the language, or some of the
We'll
things that
bring
are
up the more
considered.
specific one
Yeah.
under the committee. So no motion on this one.
Citizens Bill of Rights. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to put it on the ballot, to put it on the ballot, excuse me, only so we can have some discussion on the table. It was brought up by citizens, I think it deserves some discussion. So I bring it up to get that
We have a
discussion.
motion. Do we have a second?
What is the bill, what is the Bill of Rights? Can we expand on this?
It's,
It was presented,
I don't have that with me.
Citizens.
The folder was the water. Here.
is there a second to the motion?
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Anyone want to speak?
I mean, I would would make the observation that, a Citizens Bill of Rights sounds very good. I mean, we all feel that we have rights and they should be enumerated, but this is a huge question. And I think emotionally it passes every time if you ask people and they haven't looked into it. But when you get into the details of what does this Bill of Rights include, what doesn't it include, what's preempted by federal or state law, I mean, it's a hugely complex question that I don't know that, I think if it was to be approved, added to the charter, it would have a ton of unintended consequences and cost a lot of money, aggravation, and ultimately would probably take years to develop.
Just
I agree.
I would just like to raise one thing. I was reading in the newspaper back within the last year. There was an argument over how many chickens someone can have on their property. That would be their right. So we get into that little nonsense. It's just...
The answer is 4.
Oh, yeah. You remember what that was?
Yeah. I agree with Rob. We did bring this up as just for discussion, and because it was in a lot of the other charters. And what we did was we just said, okay, they're in other charters. We have kind of a thin charter, but if we're self-governing, maybe we should look at some of these other components just for discussion. And again, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About half of the charters have some form of what's called Citizens Bill of Rights. So we explored this, and it could be from a whistleblower, some sort of language, a code of ethics, education and training, citizen groups that would exist to initiate and conduct investigations. And these are all separate, they're not just one thing. An efficiency commission, and so forth. But in talking with the county, and most of it was from the administrator, when we interviewed Hector Flores, we asked him about these things, and some he did have to get back to us. Yes, this is in the county code. Yes, whistleblower is covered in the county code. This is covered in the county administrative code. I'm not saying all of this is, but a lot of this is being covered. Certainly it's not charter, but the commissioners would have to approve the county code or the administrative code to be changed, and do away with these rights. I agree with Rob then. A lot of this is covered, and not knowing what we'd be talking about, it could take months and years to unravel until there's something solid that's not in conflict or already addressed. I mean, that's an arduous process. So, and that's why we didn't make that recommendation.
I think my biggest concern, if I could say this, we were given this package back a while ago, and some of us are sitting here with a question mark over their heads. We've not looked at this, so now we're going to put this to the voters. They'll vote emotionally on this. If you look at some of the things that are in here, it could be very questionable, and it could be against laws that are already out there. So I think either call the question or we could table this so everybody here reviews it, but remember, all of our voters are not going to take the time to read the 4 pages.
Donna?
Yeah, I guess if we were going to put this forward, I would rather it be something that this group had created, rather than it just comes in over the transom and we put it on the ballot because we think it sounds appropriate right now. I mean, I would not be for going forward with something like this that is vague and just came, I mean, not saying that citizens don't have great recommendations, but I think this is too weighty to just proceed that way.
I would agree. I would agree, especially since somebody's really defined what rights we don't have. I mean, do we want the right to holler fire in a crowded theater, or, since there's no definition of what rights may be violated, I would not be in favor of putting that in there.
Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with Donna. This was given to us in November of '21, and if you read it, there's some big problems here. So if we're voting on the Citizens' Rights Bill, and this is it, you know.
I don't know that we were voting specifically for that document. I thought we were voting for a Citizens' Bill of Rights, and I agree with what's being said. Unfortunately, I think this came up too late in the game, and that's my issue with the whole way that this charter committee is run, and then why we made the recommendation as we did, that it should be reconstructed to give us more time. Because this is a weighty thing. I don't think we can make this recommendation for this. I think it's too late. I think it's much too complicated and difficult to make.
This is a lawyer's, this is how lawyers make their money.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Well, if I had a suggestion, I would suggest that we maybe table this until the next meeting, giving everybody a chance to go back and review the issues, which are somewhere in this pile of paper and half of what I left behind.
Well, I mean, again, this is kind of a point of order. Are we making a decision on whether the charter ought to say we should have a Citizens' Bill of Rights, or are we making, are we voting on whether this one that we've been presented should be the Bill of Rights? I mean,
What we've been doing is taking the issues as presented by citizens. That was
Everything
the
else
So
document.
that's it.
But-
We're voting on that document.
well, I get that's how it made the list, but my question to the group is, are we voting on a Citizens' Bill of Rights should be part of the charter, not the specific one that was presented to us? Or are we voting
Citizens'
on?
Bill of Rights, if we say Citizens' Bill of Rights,
Well, I mean,
Rob
it's
has
sort
to
of a
write
two-step
language
process.
to put it on the ballot, and then it's gonna have to have some substance, which
Well-
means we're gonna have to burn the midnight oil in this.
Let me clarify my question. What I'm saying is, this group could make a recommendation that on the charter review referendum, it says, we believe there should be a Citizens' Bill of Rights, period. And it should be adopted, following procedures and protocol and whatever. Without saying what it says, we could do that, right?
I don't know that we could do that. I think
No?
We would, the charter needs to set
Well,
forth
that would
what it
pass.
sets forth. The charter doesn't set forth what we should do.
Okay,
So-
all right. Well, that was part of my intention for asking the
So the only
question.
thing we might do is recommend for a future charter review to consider this. Because I don't think we have the ability to do that.
So-
right now.
So when we have this sheet that we've had prepared here, we have ballot question, yes or no, then there's a recommendation we could make after we vote. If we don't put it on as a ballot question, you could vote to make a recommendation for a future charter review commission to consider a Citizens' Bill of Rights.
All right. Lisa, what was your motion?
To
It was really just
Discuss it.
discussion, have a
Discuss it.
discussion on it, yes.
Then,
Because I thought it would be.
It was a motion to put it on the ballot
But only, yeah.
for
only
for discussion purposes. So the question is, do you want to vote to put it on the ballot?
Raise your hands, yes, if you want to put it on the ballot. No, if you don't want it on the ballot. Okay? Very good. Okay, so then we'll make that a recommendation, and also if that's good with everybody, then for future.
We should have a motion on that.
Yes, I need a motion on that, please,
I'll make a motion.
to recommend it to future
I
charter.
recommend in the future that we look into a Citizens' Bill of Rights.
I'll second that
Do
one.
you have a second? Any discussion? 6 years from now, charter review committee.
That's perfect.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a point of view that should be expressed. The fact that prior groups like this didn't include that particular thing in their purview is not an endorsement of this idea. My point is that people who have put this charter together, in my mind, were very intelligent people. They put together what was necessary to operate the county, and they did not include things that were extraneous or were in fact covered by some other aspect of our daily life. And not every idea that comes before us is a new discovery of, oh, a prior group of people weren't smart enough or overlooked this. In my view, they've looked at all these kinds of broad issues and chose not to bring it forward. So I'm going to vote for my predecessors and not put this forward to the community.
Yeah, but just so we understand what we're talking about, like I said, we looked at various components of it, and they're covered by either statute or by the administrative code. And just for instance, I think 2 counties have a Bill of Rights. I'm looking at Pinellas. Well, the Board of County Commissioners, there'll be no conflict of interest. I think that exists now through the ethics. You know, they can't own a business, or they have to excuse themselves from voting. And anything like that, full access of the public to public records. Well, we have the Sunshine Law. So again, I look at this, and when we say Bill of Rights, it sounds good, but we're not talking about the US Constitution. We're talking about things that are covered by administrative code, sunshine, state law, and other areas that we do have a lot of protections, and we specifically ask that. So I hate to go down the path where 6 years from now, they think that, oh yeah, we have to adopt something.
So the motion is to review it. It's not to adopt it,
Well,
it's simply to make a recommendation,
Yeah.
which they may say the same thing, thank you, we're not going to review it.
You're right, Patty.
Yeah, that's what the motion is, and let's call the question so we can get this thing done. All in favor of the motion of recommending this to the next Charter Review Commission 6 years from now, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All against, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, there you go. Next thing, new opening statement to the charter.
I think it was to replace the preamble with recognizing more citizen rights. I think very close to the one we just discussed, if I recall correctly.
Is there anyone to make a motion to add to take to the citizen a new opening statement to the charter? Anyone wants to make that motion?
Is that written now? I mean, is it?
We have a preamble to the charter now.
No, it's in the proposal. No, it's in the proposal. Yeah, if somebody got the amendment, is it in writing? Yeah. So we know what they're talking about? Can you read it?
We, the people of Charlotte County, in order to secure for ourselves the benefits and responsibilities of home rule, and in order to provide for a county government to provide for the protection of our life, liberty, and property, do under God adopt this charter and as part thereof adopt the following.
That's the proposed or the current?
That's the proposal. You were mailed this with the issues.
What's the current?
The current citizens of Charlotte County, Florida, believing that government decisions affecting local interests should be made locally rather than by the state, and in order to bring the county full home rule benefits supported by the Constitution of the state of Florida as two charter counties, do ordain and establish this home rule charter for Charlotte County, Florida. So is there a motion?
Is there a motion to new opening statement? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we do not recommend that.
Well, if you don't make a motion at all, it's got to die.
Let it die, let it die, let it die, right?
Make a motion and it'll die.
What do we want to do? We want to get this to be necessary?
Do you want, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more that were citizens, and then we go to the ones that came from the staff.
Excuse me, Chair.
Okay, sure.
I'm heading my civic association and we're meeting tonight. I really didn't think I was gonna be here past 4:30.
No, and we can, depending on what everybody feels, we can stop now.
Thank you.
Understand it, because you want to stop, you good with that?
Yeah, I can go.
Do we want to start the next meeting at 2:30?
So we're going to start the next meeting at 2:30.
Yeah, that'd be great, that'd be great.
Are we still having the water quality, guys, since we've now just already voted
No,
on
we're not,
the water
no, we're
quality?
not having. Please remember to bring this with you. Bring this paper with you.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's all I have.
Anything else? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great meeting.